Tricia, did you want to do him up?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, we can, if you want to do right after your report, that's fine.
Just want to make sure. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, and those watching on TV. Mayor's report, very short. I'd like to give a big congratulations to the Herman Bearcats. All their sporting events, they all did well, and also to the FFA. And I think Dave or Don Shockley got a gold at the National Individual Awards at the FFA. So, way to go Bearcats. The school does a good job. If you didn't make it, I attended the Veterans Program with my daughter, and I had announced that at the last meeting. If you're a veteran, next year try and make it. The school does a wonderful job, and it's rarely appreciated, and I just wanted to make a public thank you to the school for doing that. The other thing is, went to the Showboat Saturday night and seen the new movie, Vintage Christmas. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It really showcases Herman. We had a great meeting on flood mitigation, and there'll be more of that coming down the road, but Tricia may touch on that a little bit later. And the only other thing is, I want to wish everybody a blessed Thanksgiving next week. We're going to change the program just a little bit, and so we can discuss the water and sewage bonds first.
For those of you who don't remember, I'm Joey McCliney. I work with you guys on your bond issues. We do not have any action to take on it. You have in front of you, though, what two ordinances calling elections. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm telling other clients about bond issues and this bond issue. You are out of your bonding authority. 2 years ago, I wouldn't care, because 2 years ago interest rates were really low. And we could go to the state and get subsidized interest rate, and it would cost us 15 to 25% more because we went to the state. They're just painful to go through, and architects and engineers jack their prices up, and they have to do more to go through the state. Right now we're in a 20-year 5% market, if not a 20-year 5.5% market. If we go through the state program, it'll cost us 2% for 20 years. All of a sudden that little bit higher cost, or that substantially higher cost, is worth it. However, the key is you have to have voted bonds. Now, and I've been mentioning this to Tricia, we have until January to put anything on the April ballot. So we have plenty of time to talk about this. But you should start thinking in that regards. If you think interest rates are going to go back down, and they might, I wish I knew whether they were going up or down, they just feel like they're going up, then maybe we can wait. But at this point, it looks like the best way to get the lowest interest rate is to vote bonds. We don't have to spend it if we don't have any projects. It doesn't cost us anything to have it, but it does put us in the way of opportunity. Also, you cannot get grants or any sizable grants unless you have matching voted bond funds. Now, the city can borrow anytime they want, literally anytime they want. I can go to the market with Herman, Missouri bonds, and it wouldn't be a bond, it would be a lease. I can go to the market anytime I want with this Herman, Missouri lease, which will look and act just like a bond, and it'll be readily acceptable. The difference will be it takes us from a voted bond at 2% through the state program, only for water and sewer, to a unvoted lease at 5 or 6%, somewhere between, say, 5 and 6%. Now, why do I mention that? Well, because you can borrow anytime you want. The message I would recommend to the community is let us borrow the least expensive way possible. There are things that must be done. One of them is the lift station. That lift station can be done with sewer bonds. Now the reason is because it's storm water mitigation. It just happens to be flood mitigation as well. So we can do that. SEMA will give us money if we provide matching funds. I don't know how much, but it sounds like a really expensive project. My recommendation, vote sewer bonds with the idea that SEMA, and ask SEMA how much money they're going to give us. We'll know. But you want to have sewer bonds in place. I don't want to go to market. I'll go to market with anything you want. I don't want to go to market unless we can go through the state program. The state program will take forever. It'll be a 2-year program. We can go to market tomorrow. But again, the message is we have projects. You're going to have sewer projects. You're going to have water projects. Let us borrow the least expensive way possible. Otherwise, you know, if SEMA comes in and says, hey, you have to come up with $1 million or $5 million and you have to do it right away, and you don't have bonds available, and we're going to give you $15 million, it's likely you're not going to turn them down if it's a 3-to-1 deal. But you're going to have to go to market in a more expensive fashion, which I, of course, as I said, I can do. Now, in Missouri, debt is defined as an obligation longer than 365 days. The reason, and all debt in Missouri requires a vote. So the question that should jump to mind is, well, if all debt requires a vote, how do we go to market with it? How do we do it without a vote? A lease is redefined as a short-term obligation, as a current expense, because every year you have the right to walk away from that lease payment. So you'll have a fixed payment, you'll have a fixed interest rate, it'll go 1 to 20 years, but every year you budget for that payment. It turns it from a long-term obligation, a bond, to a current expense that doesn't need to be voted. Very clever attorneys figured it out years ago, and so that's how it's done. That's how you get around the Missouri Constitution that says all debt must be voted. So it's more information than you probably wanted, but that's how. So we can borrow anytime you want. It's more expensive. I think you need to start thinking about putting something on the ballot, and I'm talking a large amount. And I don't know what that large amount is. That's going to be an engineering question, but substantially more than you need. So, for example, $20 million on the ballot for sewer projects. You can't afford $20 million ever, but you could afford $2 million, and then 7 years later, maybe another $2 million. It's just planning, and so it's a good practice. It allows you to borrow at the lowest interest rate possible, and it allows you to qualify for grants. And so that's really it. I can't think of, I think I put that in an email too. So are there any questions?
Does putting a large number like 20 million on a ballot, even though we might only need 2 at a time, scare off voters?
It will scare off some voters. That's why you need voter informational brochures and you need public meetings. And you don't need a lot of public meetings, but maybe 2 before the election, explaining here's what we're trying to do, especially when you're saying we're trying to borrow at the lowest rate possible. So maybe 20 million is too much, but 10. City of Odessa, about the same size as you guys are, they put 24 million on the ballot. The only thing I would caution you about is don't tell your engineer. I hope he's not here. Don't tell the engineer how much money's there. They tend to fill in their projects with available bonds, but just be very cautious on that. But I think City of Peculiar, Missouri, smaller than you. They put 50 million on it, and they've capitalized on it every time they could with the grant money. They were the only city in the state, if you remember when they said shovel-ready, I think that was Obama said, oh, I've got money for shovel-ready projects. Well, everybody in the world said, well, I've got projects and a shovel and I'm ready. Well, what they meant was voted bonds. And so most cities didn't do anything. City of Peculiar voted $10 million in street bonds for an overpass. That was the idea. And when they said shovel ready, we were, and they got 16 million, and they were the only city to get any money from the Missouri Department of Transportation because we were able to match it.
So are most of those bonds matching, or the grants matching?
Yeah,
That were,
yeah, almost all of them. And there's not, when you have, one last thing, when you have really cheap money and the interest rate market is cheap, there's no reason to worry about the state program. When you have really cheap money and rates are really high, like they are now, higher now, they're still remarkably low at 5 and 6% for 20 years. But when you have a 2% money, all of a sudden it becomes competitive. Those funds are available now. In a year, if rates continue to climb, they will become more and more popular, and more people will be going through it.
So you're talking about the state matching funds?
I'm talking about the grants as well as low interest rate loans, so both. So grant funds, everybody will start applying for them, but you have to have bonds in place. But also the state revolving loan fund, or the direct loan program, which is the subsidized interest rate, which means you borrow at 2%, slightly lower. That will become competitive again, and fewer people will get involved, because all of a sudden, a St. Louis or a Kansas City, Missouri goes, well, I'll take $100 million, and they have bonds in place.
Is there any, is there any inherent advantage though between the lease from an actual getting the projects going between you said the lease versus the bonds?
Speed.
That
is it. Interest rates are, if you have, first of all, if, for example, the mitigation project that is kind of being forced on you to move if all of a sudden you say, hey, we're voting bonds for that project, DNR stops caring as much. They'll say, well, they're moving things forward, and so they get off your back. If you ignore them, they get a little cranky.
Okay.
so are all of the grants available for the 2% match through the state, or is there just not as many with the 5%?
So I'm talking about two different things. There are grant funds out there, and that have to have bonds. You don't have to go through the 2% program, the bond program at 2% to get the grants. If you did it with a lease, some of them, for example, USDA requires voted bonds. Some of them require voted bonds. You can say, okay, we're going to use the lease and get grants. So if SEMA comes along and again says, we have to have it, but we have to have it now, we'll figure out a way to do it. But ideally, you want voted bonds in place, because the only way to get the low interest rate loans through the state program or through the federal program is with voted bonds.
Are the lease rates fixed?
Yes.
So you're reallocating every year, but they don't float with prime or anything?
No, you're you're exactly right. It's the what do they call it? Subject to annual appropriation. You appropriate every year, but they are fixed. It will look exactly like, it'll feel like a bond, it'll look like a bond, walks like a duck, squat, but it's still a lease. And it is just a clever way of getting it out of the vote. It is very useful, that tool, when you need something done right away. But other than that, the best way to go is with when rates are close. City of Plattsburgh, Missouri, we issued 25-year bonds at just under 2%, and the state revolving, this was in 21, the state revolving loan fund program was maybe 1 3/4, but the cost was so much higher that we went out on our own, and it was cheaper. So we look at it the entire time, and so if rates start to switch, we obviously switch to the general market versus the state program.
Any other question?
So, he had mentioned that if we were amenable to doing this, and I don't know how much we want to bite off, but we could do sewer bond and water bond
Yes.
as well.
You have two ordinances in front of you. One is for water, one is for sewer, and they both qualify for that low interest rate loan. And so right now you have obviously sewer projects, and I hate putting two things on the ballot, but You will have ongoing, the only thing you're certain of is that you'll need to fix the water system, the sewer system, and your streets all the time. It's just the reality of running a city.
So you're not allowed to combine the two on one ballot?
You actually can, but you already have sewer bonds outstanding, and so it would make them junior lien, it would make them second lien to the outstanding, if we combine them to a water and sewer system. But if we're thinking we're going to the, it might be worth considering combining the system. You would operate, please operate, you would operate the system separately. You would tell what happens is sometimes an accountant will come in and go, perfect, it's a combined system, and they pool all the funds as one fund, as a utility revenue fund. You want to keep operating it as a water system and as a sewer system on your books, because it's very easy, it's very difficult to manage budgets if you don't have that breakout. But
Okay.
So, like you said, we don't have to make any decisions tonight. Something we'll want to think about is if we want to move forward with this sort of bond option, what election we might want to put our question on. April does have, the school is asking for a no tax increase bond, just to renew what they have. So that will definitely be on there. Time goes by quickly. We do have until like the third week in January, but you know we typically don't have a second December meeting. And I guess we could vote the ordinances at one meeting, but it probably, again, if we wanted to go forward, doing two separate meetings, giving the public plenty of opportunity to talk would probably be the best option. But anyway, I'm glad Joey could come here in person and explain this to us. Cheap money is the best money to get.
yeah, free is the best, but cheap is
Cheap
the
is
second
good.
best. There is an August ballot. I tend to call it the stealth ballot because nobody goes, and so just bring your spouse and a friend and you'll pass it. But it is expensive because you'll be the only one on the ballot. And so you'll have to pay for the whole thing yourself. So April will be the least expensive, probably. April and November will be the two least expensive ballots in 2024.
Are there, how uncommon is it for municipalities to put things on a November ballot?
No, it's very common.
It's common?
Yeah. It is all the time.
And no really strong pros or cons?
No. The only con out there is when you go on a February or August ballot. People get a little upset. Well, we didn't know about it. Well, we published it and we put out voter informational brochures and we had public meetings, but nobody voted except you and your spouses and your friends that you talked to them.
It might be more advisable to go to the August one since the school has their bond issue on there too, because then there's,
Right. No, and
I mean,
you're exactly right. It's the school will say, hey, come on, we're putting something on the ballot, help us out here. Don't put it on the ballot. They don't want competition.
right, okay.
Does a larger voter turnout, more than likely being the presidential election next November, does a higher voter turnout typically help bond issues or hurt?
It depends on the bond issue. For example, you have the no tax, which it could be called, we're not going to reduce your tax school bond issue. That if it's, that probably would be fine in anyone, but if all of a sudden we came and said, hey, this is going to bump your, it won't be on the ballot, but it'll explain that we'll keep revenues high enough to pay our revenue bonds. But if when we are telling them, we're saying it's going to cost everybody $15 per month per connection, it's not going to pass. People are going to say, whoa. But if we say, hey, we're going for 50-cent dollars because SEMA's going to give us half the project, people tend to vote for it and like to hear that. And so it really just is the message. And really getting the message out. You guys tend to pass bond issues when you want them, when you need them, because they trust you. And so it's just making sure the message is not promotional ever. You hate being sold, I hate being sold. So it just is, here's what's going on, here's what we're trying to do. If you think it's a good idea, please vote yes. And that's it. Anything more than that, first of all, the city can't pay for anything more than that. It has to be strictly informational. But I don't find getting really rah-rah behind waterworks and sewerage system very effective. If we're building a new gym and we're a school district, then you need some cheerleading.
So how does the timeline play into this? Is, if we go out past this fall into next spring or even further than that, does this change, or is it?
So
kind
if we vote, let's say we voted bonds in April, and SEMA says we're gonna give you everything, and we don't do anything, doesn't cost us anything, and we have authorized but unissued bonds, and it doesn't cost us anything to have that. And so if if the school wasn't going to the market, you'd think, okay, in January, at our January meeting, we'll put it on the ballot. You'll pass the ordinance. It'll go to the county. They'll publish right away. And then 3 weeks, a month before the election, we'll come up with voter informational brochures that can be distributed with the bills, and we'll have a public meeting or two just before the election, and off you go. And then we don't borrow until DNR tells us to borrow, until they say, hey, we need this, or DNR is saying that project needs to go. So it's likely, if we're going through the state revolving loan fund, and engineers hate to hear this, but it'll be, let's say we pass everything in the spring, it'll be 2 years before we start going to market. So this is long-term planning.
Okay.
And we are at the point, and I think I'm being redundant now, but next year, we will literally be out of money in our wastewater bonds that we've been using to be compliant with the DNR as far as working on our I&I issues and doing our sewer pipe relining and things like that. I mean, we will have expended all of our bond money. So we have to do something,
And to that timeline, Derek, one of the concerns of the engineering firm is that right now we've got a lot of this money, the grant money that's available, these matching grants. If we put this off years and years, that money's gonna start drying up, and we might miss out on this, an opportunity to get a matching grant. And something like Lions Field, where we have to do this. This isn't a pretty please by DNR. This is, you will do this or we will start fining you. So in situations like that, if we can get a bond, get it cheaper, and get matching grant money, I mean, that's a no-brainer for town. Because we're gonna have to pay for it ourselves, or even get a little bit of money, that we've all paid into the federal government already. So, or the state government.
Okay, any other questions?
We'll be getting some information out to you shortly. Our engineer is working, it's kind of a rough spreadsheet right now, but we'll work up something a little more formal for you to see what our needs are beyond the lift station that we keep talking about and what some of those numbers will look like. Again, the water, water bonds, that's something we can discuss further, whether or not that's something you want to tackle now, but we could at least get you a list of needs.
And that needs list is dynamite, because, some of it will not have to be done right away. Some of it you put off for 100 years at this point. So it's great. But if all of a sudden he says, okay, you literally on the water side have $7 million worth of work, rest assured in 4 years that 7 will turn into, because of inflation, will turn into 10. So asking for 15 million is not an unreasonable amount, as long as you explain it to the voters. Here's why we're doing it this way. Grants and low interest rate loans, and we're anticipating some inflation, but we only spend what we need. We only borrow what we need. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Oh, my pleasure.
Okay, we'll move on to city administrator report.
So I think at our last meeting, I was kind of teasing that we had kind of been informally told that we were going to get the TAP grant, and they have made that formal announcement. And so we did. We received the TAP grant for the sidewalk program on the 200 block of East 4th Street and the ADA approaches and some of those bad spots on the 100 block. So it's an 80-20 grant, and the state is going to give us $232,000 for that. We also received, in the same week, we got the formal notification that we received the TEEP grant as well. That's a much smaller grant, like $12,000, but it's for an engineering study for our flood route streets. Ballpark lighting. So as you recall, we've had a grant application submitted for that. Getting close on 2 years through the Federal Land and Water Conservation Grant, a year and a half. We are in the final stages of that, and got a call last week that our project, as well as many others in Missouri, got flagged by Osage Nation for required archaeology monitoring during our excavation. So trying to work out that little hiccup, and hopefully it won't do anything to delay the project, but I'll keep you posted. Also, the Panhandle Eastern Pipeline, the rate case that we had been talking about being settled. I was anticipating the amount of our refund based on that. As you'll remember, they increased their fees back in March 2020 by 400%. And so the city has been absorbing all of those increases since then. And the amount that we're getting refunded between what the rate should have been, what FERC decided that rate should have been, and interest on that, to the Gas Commission as a whole, that refund is $1,038,900.97. Now, that money will be divided between the 4 other cities in the Gas Commission, but ours will roughly be just over a third. So we're working on that spreadsheet to determine the exact breakdown between the cities, but for Herman specifically, it will likely be between $350 and $400. And we should have that by November 24th. So our Free Creek Bridge project, there by Ford on Highway 19, it has been back and forth about the amount that we may owe for the pedestrian portion of that bridge that we were responsible for, and the wrought iron fencing. MoDOT charged us an estimate based on what they thought that would cost us, and that was $43,000. Well, the true bid has come back, and that is $74,000, right? So we will owe additional money for that in the amount of $31,281. But still, in all, that will bring up. It's still less than the $150,000 they shot us earlier. Did I misspeak? You're looking at me funny.
Did you what?
Did I misspeak?
No, you're fine.
So our portion is going to be more around $74,000. So yeah, unfortunate, but still less than initially told.
Do we have to get fancy wrought iron? Can't we get something more plain?
Well, it's going to match the Herman Hoff Bridge, and now it's already been ordered. We had committed to that a long time ago. And dispatch went live on November 1 with 911 Central taking our calls from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I've touched base with a number of people, our people, 911. I've reached out to fire and ambulance. Haven't heard from ambulance yet, but it's working. Everyone seems to be saying that, it's fine. Like anything new, there's always a few little bugs to work out initially. But as far as the equipment working and the communications coming through clearly and the transfer going smoothly from our dispatch to their dispatch, that's all going well. Last meeting we talked about the potential de-annexation request from Mr. Hubbard. We have confirmed that he will be at our next meeting here with his application and to make his request to you all in person. And I have been working, did make contact with the loggers, like I had told you all, and I've received some preliminary information as we look at hopefully increasing that to be more competitive. And I really want to study and kind of digest that information, then I'll get back to you with a recommendation. The foundation repair in the community center has been a little bit of a debacle. So this building, the wiring is in the floor, not the ceiling, to everyone's chagrin. So as they were drilling the holes for the piers, they very unpleasantly found some electric lines. Then they went to do the foam injection. They found a water line. So everything's repaired. And what they've done is good and has raised some things back up. What they have not completed is the work on the porch. So I had emailed you, I think the middle of last week, asking for some cursory approval for the addendum for 4 extra piers under the wall that abuts the front porch. They are going to hold off on that because when they went to do the piering under the 4 pillars, they discovered that another company had already put piers there back in 2017 and they have failed. And the brick pillars are sitting on crumbling cinder blocks. So they dug the holes and they went, this is bad, and they filled the holes back in. And they're sending it off to a structural engineer that they work with who is accustomed to the type of work that they do and want to get a very professional opinion on how to proceed with that. Because that whole porch system is tied in, there's concrete panels is what is the ceiling over this whole building, and it's all tied together. So it's not like the roof on the porch is anything separate. It is tied into the structure. And of course that's tied into the pillars and the front wall, and it's a whole thing. So we'll see what that all is going to entail. We'll of course get second opinions. I'll send it to Archer, our firm, to their structural engineer as well. Of course, bring it to you all. I hope it's not, but I keep hearing like cha-ching in the back of my head.
Is there any recourse with the company who installed the piers in 2017?
I'm going to take up the paperwork and see if I can find anything on that. Yeah. So that is a to be continued. But the community center itself is finished. The kitchen is done. We've just got to get it all put back together and cleaned and in working order. Port Authority. So last week I reached out to Steve Etcher just regarding, what are next steps? Are we getting ready to assemble the board? And he said that he had just met with Montgomery County on that Thursday, and they are looking for dates to schedule like an introductory meeting for potential board candidates to explain the initiative to them. And once that meeting gets set, he's gonna let us know, and then we can send our potential interested parties who might want to serve on that board to that meeting. So be thinking about that.
And those potential people have to be citizens, not public.
Thank you. They have to
not public
be.
figures, correct?
They
I
can't
mean,
be. They
none
can't
of us could
be
do that.
any elected official. It can't be me because I'm. You have to be a Herman resident and a Herman voter. Okay, so when you're thinking of people to ask, they have to meet that qualification.
Okay.
Utility workshop. Susan had actually, and maybe some of you too, had suggested that maybe before winter comes that we should do a kind of a utility billing maybe not even a workshop, but like a community engagement meeting or something, just because there's always a lot of confusion around reading bills. People will call, they'll get their utility bill, which has, you know, potentially gas, electric, sewer, trash on it, and they'll call it their electric bill and then compare it to their neighbor, you know, across the river. And that's completely inaccurate. And then, you know, that kind of disinformation ensues. So a lot of that falls on Jesse. So we've had so many things pop up that we can pull it off, and we have one date that'll actually work, which would be November 29th. It'll be pretty simple, nothing fancy. It'll be Jesse just talking to people and explaining things. We have grandiose visions of doing down the line. What I'd like to do is create some sort of video or graphics or something that when, because so often, you know, these things will go on Facebook and somebody will put something completely inaccurate on, and then everybody will start answering that and thinking that's true. And I would love to be able to answer from the city of Herman and say, with a link, and say, hey, go watch this snippet or this video, or go, you know, read this, you know, piece of information, as a way of getting out the accurate information. So that's what I'd eventually like to do. But if you want to do something now, it's going to be pretty basic. It would just, like I said, it'll just basically be Jesse, and maybe Carol can have some input on reviewing how you read your utility bill. I wouldn't expect it to take, you know, 20 or 30 minutes. He could do some, he's pulled together a bunch of rate comparison information. If you'd like him to share that, that could happen as well. So do you guys see any value in trying to do that this quickly, like on November 29th? Or do you want to put it off till we can do something a little more professional? What do you think?
The reason I like doing it now is because everybody's going to start getting their utility bills and maybe shocked, maybe not, but. And we have all kinds of information out here on the table that people can take that has things you can do to be more energy efficient.
I was thinking, with the holidays fast approaching, which they are, it may not be a good time to do it. And what I kind of had envisioned, maybe we could take like a utility bill and circle like the date, you know, A is the date, B is your kilowatt per hour, and what you're charging, for the gas breakdown, and make it where we could actually mail that out so they could have an example and see a screenshot of the top to go
We
through.
had talked about that like in a presentation, you know, using an example to go through
Do
it.
something like that now, because, you know, a week from now it's going to be Thanksgiving, then everybody's going to be into the Christmas spirits, and turnout may be very, very low, and we're still going to hear those issues about comparing utility bill just as the electric bill.
Or we could do, and I just waiting on this because I'm doing it. I'm open to any ideas really. Maybe another one would be not to do the workshop, but maybe have him do a video that we could post that people could watch.
A video of Jesse?
Just an idea.
This is my thrill.
He's actually very good at making these presentations and explaining the utilities. He is very good at that.
Off video.
Off video.
I certainly don't think there's anything wrong with having a workshop to present information. I certainly think the link to a city-hosted PowerPoint, wherever you want to call it, explanation video should be on the fast track. I think that's a fantastic idea.
And maybe this video could be the beginning of such things.
Like what Ash says is, and that falls into what I think of like a PowerPoint presentation. We could put it
Yeah.
on the city site. Therein, you learn, everybody's got a computer, I know, but there's a lot that doesn't. And they have to have that site on their computer. there's a lot of people that, what site do I go to? I don't have that on my computer. So we leave some people out. I mean, I follow it, I follow a lot of them, but there's several times I see updates other people mentioned they saw. I'm following the group, but I never got the update either, so we're still gonna miss probably 40% of the community just on social media.
So you're
So
thinking still some
if we
sort
could
of
print
flyer?
those, then mail them out.
Okay, well, that's all good input. Anybody else?
I think the rate comparisons, definitely throw that in there. I think that's a good point.
Okay. Do you have any input, Mr. Giltz?
None that you want.
He's gonna have the floor here in a moment, so we better we'll let him say his piece. Okay, thank you all. Couple shout outs to employees. One, Tammy Bergerhoff, as the mayor mentioned, the movie producers at the premiere just really complimented her highly. She was really, really instrumental in getting them here and helping them and taking them around town and making all the introductions and the schedules. And they weren't expecting really any of that out of her, but she really went the extra mile and they were super complimentary, so I wanted to give her that shout out. Other thing is that Terry Foley, our long-term 14-year dispatcher, is retiring. Her last working day here is Wednesday, so we wish Terry a happy retirement. And I'm done.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Okay, Jesse, Public Works Department. Report.
The Water, Sewer, and Gas Department has been obviously working on the sewer main on Sandplant Road, as well as doing some gas service work recently. They've been doing some catch-up work here the last week and a half or so on the other utilities. They've also got a guy in training at the moment doing some classes for a new license. Street Department has, they've replaced a section of the sidewalk. I don't know how many of you were familiar in front of Moose Caboose. There's a section of the sidewalk that collapsed. It was actually a storm drain cap. They got that tore off and replaced last week. They've begun hanging banners and Christmas lights on the utility lights downtown. The electric department has been working alongside on Sandplant Road. We have electrical service and it's energized to the new apartment / guest house, whatever it'll be for sure, and that's all hot. We got in the transformer from Zydeco. I don't know if you guys remember passing that whatever a year and change ago, but we finally got it. So as soon as we have time, that'll be going in. Parks Department has been working on their new pump house for the pool and doing their regular fall maintenance for the season. Any questions? All right.
You good to go. Thank you, sir. Okay, we have no public comments, correct? Correct. Old business? Any new business?
So we have in your binders the draft tree commission ordinance. And we have a couple representatives here for questions if we have them. Can we go through that?
We can.
Okay, so what you have here is the top page was Dave starting to work on some verbiage for the membership formation. What's behind that is the tree commission's comments of changes that they made in the following red line version. So there's really only two major things. We'll go through it all, but there's really only two major things here. One, they're changing the distance of the trees to the curb. That's in there. And the other one is they want to expand the size of the board. So I talked to John about this, and so most of our all of our boards in the code have the number of people or like up to or the size of the board in the code, and then it will say whatever the parameters are, the requirements for membership. All the boards have parameters except for the Arts Council, which, you know, they're not making consequential decisions for our residents. But all the other ones do have some sort of restriction that most of them have to do with residency. So I was talking to the mayor, talked to Dave a little bit about it, and just the mayor thought that the verbiage should be included in the code itself, being clear like all the other boards and commissions do, what the parameters are. And so you can see here in the blue on the top, it used to say that you had to be a resident, property owner, or member of the garden club. So the mayor, don't let me put words in your mouth, but I think you wanted it to keep it residents, and or property owners. And this member of the garden club, remind me, John, if you wanted to keep that in there or not. Do we have any members who that fits right now?
Well, I mean, the garden club's the one that really got started, the tree board, so they put that in there. We were looking for something more, I thought, like school district or within 10 miles or something like that, because we have some people with good expertise live just outside the city limits.
Yes, which is why our suggestion, I'm sorry, I got it here, but I didn't say it, was that maybe it should say that the majority of the members of this board have to be residents and or property owners. Because they do have two very valuable members of their commission that have a lot of knowledge in the area that live just outside the city.
Everybody understand that? In other words,
So Dave's suggestion here was at least 3 of the board members shall be residents or property owners. But what do you think about it saying something about the up to 7 part, making that clear, and then saying that a majority, then that would change that 3 to a 4.
Right.
We should want to expand to 7. Is that correct?
Yeah, we wanted it 5 to 7. We're
You've got 5 now, right?
Right, we have 5.
Okay.
We're hopefully going to start doing a lot of work, and we need more help.
Can it be written like that? Written be between 5 and 7, or do they need to pick a number?
It can be between 5 and
So
7.
they say up to 7, something like that? Okay,
At least 5 and not more than 7.
okay.
And the majority of whom shall be the residents, the property owners.
Yeah, do you all agree with that? The majority shall be, is that good verbiage? Okay, and one more time, leave the garden club in or not? What's your recommendation?
With its, the way it's worded, does it exclude the garden club?
It doesn't exclude it, it just wouldn't have that as a reason to be a member.
It could go either way, I think.
But
Yeah.
is there,
Currently, they shall be a resident, property owner, or member of the garden club. We could take or member of the garden club out, and then that doesn't preclude a member being a member of the garden club. In fact, they may be still be your most qualified people.
but what if that person lives outside the city limits?
You still have that majority thing in there where you could have 3 of.
They would have to be one of your.
Which is probably a good idea. You wouldn't want 5 garden club members outside the city.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're going with the majority of being comprised of residents, I don't think garden club is necessary.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, everybody agrees on that? So let's just briefly look at these, the red line version here. You're taking out community forest manager. You said you haven't had one of those really in a long time, and it's not a
It's in the
requirement.
definitions page and nowhere else in the ordinance, so I didn't see any reason for a definition.
You okay with that? All right. Then on the next page, there it again, it's addressing the membership, which you just clarified. The terms of office, Dave, this is my question for you. That's just like standard verbiage. All of the boards and commissions, when they were first founded, that verbiage is in there. So does it make any difference whether it's, we leave it or what's the recommendation?
You can strike what's stricken there and just say
Okay.
member shall serve for a term of 3 years.
Okay. So number E2, they're talking about that they're suggesting that our plan, our tree plan, be updated every 10 years, so we don't get behind again. Number 3 there, the management plan shall be supported by a tree inventory of the Herman Parkin Street trees. The inventory shall include the location, species, diameter, condition, care, needs, and recommendations for the existing trees and recommendations for the available planting spots for new trees. And implement as funding allows the city tree management plan is approved by PUA. I think that's a good way of putting it. You all agree with that? Okay, you skip over,
So E3 is a complete add-in, correct? It's not striking anything, we're adding that into it.
yes, that's correct. Do you have that,
There
Freddie?
was a call for a management plan in there, but I think I left that verbiage in and then just added to it.
Okay, do you have what you gave me with you?
No, I came from Mountain View, Arkansas this morning and been doing that, so.
Okay, so the tree spacing, this is a small change. And it says, the small trees can be, so the distance trees may be planted from curbs or curb lines and sidewalks shall be small trees from 2 feet down to 1, and medium trees from 3 feet down to 1.5, and large trees from 4 to 2. Do you want to explain why that is?
Basically, the Tree City USA guidelines, when they first came out with the sample ordinance, what's in there is what they require. They have since dropped that requirement, and while the more space you have, the better the trees are going to grow. Herman has very few places between the sidewalk and the curb that are 8 feet wide. And we've gotten a fair amount of pushback, people wanting to plant in narrow spaces where trees were taken out of. So since the Tree City USA requirements dropped that, we thought we would cut it in half so that more trees could get planted between the curb and the sidewalk.
So unless you all have changes or questions on this, then we'll present this to you at the next meeting in a clean form for you to vote.
If that space is shortened, is there more chance of damage to the curb in the streets?
Yes. There's more chance of damage to the curb and the streets, and there's more chance the trees are going to have to come out quicker, that they won't be quite as healthy.
What you have to think about too is what we see today, we didn't have a tree commission, and they planted the mighty oaks out there that can't survive in that small distance. And these gentlemen know what tree to plant, that is a sufficient enough room to allow for root growth and tree to go up.
But
They're-
if we're
they're on-
putting new streets in, I don't know how long these trees would last. We have to go in and tear them out. Have people mad at us because we're taking trees out.
You want to feel that?
I think that the selection of species is really critical, because if you put a small tree in a small space, the probability that it's going to cause problems is going to be minor, and the probability that tree will thrive is quite good. So it's a matter of selecting the right tree for the right space.
So how will all this information be available? Will it be on our website, or is there like a database that we can go to, or?
We can put it on the website, but when somebody comes in to plant a tree, they fill out a form, and then it comes before the tree commission.
Right, and we're only talking trees on public property. And there is a book that has a list of recommended trees to be planted for the various sizes that go in there. You know, if you're planting a big oak in, a 4-foot space, it's gonna be 60 or 80 years before you have to worry about it really affecting the sidewalk, so. That will be a problem for somebody, but not for you, I don't think. And what can happen between now and then?
So and actually I didn't really know this. So if a person shares on their property an easement with the city, if they're planning on planting a tree in that space, that shared part, they have to come in and fill out an
That's what they're
application.
supposed to do.
Okay.
Not very many do, and I know we tried to get that on the website, but it's something that probably needs to be reiterated. There also are a number of cutouts where they did plant trees downtown that, I don't know, there's maybe 2 out of 20 left that have a tree in them or something. And we are gonna try and get trees back into those spots.
Okay.
So I think the biggest thing to all this is just what Clark said, the type of tree that goes back in there. Personally, I don't want to see any oaks in a 4-foot spot, because I know it won't be anybody in this room's problem 80 years from now, but it will be somebody's, and as being that somebody regularly, I don't wish that on anybody. So I think we need to put the right tree in the right spot. If we can put small, trees that aren't going to be problem causing. If we have to replace small trees every 20 years, in my eye, that's better than having to replace big trees, a curb, a sidewalk, a street every 80. But that's the thing, is these guys have the authority to make those decisions on public property. So, we can make sure that the right trees go in the right spots there. And as we're doing on 4th Street with this sidewalk grant, moving that sidewalk all the way to the curb line, that opens up the spot in the back of the sidewalk. So then you can plant your big bur oaks and your big trees and not have to worry about that.
Yeah, our concern is if you look at the canopy cover of permanent 30 years ago versus now, well more than 50% of the canopy cover of trees is gone. And if that trend continues, we're known for beauty, picturesque, and so we need to get some trees back some way.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? I want to thank you gentlemen for coming and giving us your time and thanks for what you do.
Thank you.
So this will be on the ballot next time, right? Or for us to vote on next time? Okay, I'm good.
All right, we'll move on to ordinances.
All right, the first on the agenda for this evening is bill number 2023-37 for first reading. An ordinance calling general election for the year of 2024, setting the date and time thereof, specifying polling places, appointing judges of election, specifying officers to be elected, providing filing date for candidates, and providing for publication of notice of election and general provisions.
Any questions on that? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve bill number 2023-37, first read.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Next is bill number 2023-38, an ordinance prescribing the salary for the elected office of city collector and establishing the effective date thereof.
So as you all know, because the collector's position is elected, that position doesn't get the raise at the same time the employees do. So it goes into effect after the next election for whomever the successful elected person is. And it's in the amount that the employees receive, so it's 5%.
Okay. I have a motion to approve.
Move 2023-38, first read.
Motion's made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Next is bill number 2023-39, an ordinance to approve a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Transportation Enhancements Fund Program Agreement.
And this is our sidewalk agreement with the
Sidewalk.
state.
Anybody have any questions on that one?
And if you all don't mind reading it twice, you can get it real quick.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
I approve bill number 2023-39.
Motion
Read.
made, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made, second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. We'll read that second time.
Bill number 2023-39, an ordinance to approve a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Transportation Enhancements Funds Program Agreement.
Do I have a motion to approve second reading?
I'll make a motion, bill number 2023-39, second read.
Motion's made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. We will move on to motions. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
I move to approve the October 23rd, 23 minutes.
Motion's made, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Next, invoices for payments. Do I have a motion to pay our bills?
I will move that we pay those bills.
Motion has been made, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. We're going to reappoint Clayton Newell and Patrick Kratz to the Board of Adjustment.
These gentlemen got off easy because they were fulfilling unexpired terms and nothing happened during the last year, so.
Yeah, easy peasy. Do I have a motion to approve those?
Move to approve.
Motion's made, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're good. Approve the low bid from Herman Ford for the 2024 Ford F-350 4x4 Super Cab truck for $52,470. And this will be shared by the 3 departments there. Anyway, do I have a motion to approve that?
I will move to approve.
Motion's made. Do I have a
Second.
second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Outdoor seating permit renewal for Doxy Slush, Nicholas and Brittany Renfro at 222 East First Street. Any questions? We have a motion to approve.
I move to approve their permit.
Motion's made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Conditional use permit renewal for McCleary Investments LLC, the bank, bar, 115 Schiller Street, liquor sales for outdoor consumption. Any questions on that one? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Motion has been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Special event application for the Herman Tourism Department, Pictures with Santa at the Amtrak station on December 21st, 2023. I have a motion to approve Santa.
I'll make a motion to approve Santa.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is there somebody there? We don't want to upset
I don't want to
Santa.
make it bad.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. We have no reports. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
I'll second. Motion's made and second. All in favor, right?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you for coming and watching. You guys wanted to stay on. What the heck?
You're home watching basketball.
I'm good.